Coming up on our Montreal, I met Canadian actor Colm Feore this week for National Canadian Film Day at Heritage Regional High School in St. Hubert. That's coming up next. The 2006 movie Bon Cop, Bad Cop is one of the highest grossing films in Canadian history. It's also one of the first ever bilingual films. Well, now a whole new generation is getting to discover it. Bon Cop, Bad Cop was screened in high schools across Canada for National Canadian Film Day. The buddy cop partners in the movie, Colm Feore and Colm, were at Heritage Regional High School in St. Hubert this week to screen the film and to answer questions from students. I was there to moderate the discussion, but I also got a chance to speak with Colm Feore about the popularity of the movie and the possibility of a sequel. Why do you think Bon Cop, Bad Cop has captured Quebecers and Canadians so much?
Well, I think you're exactly right in your question. It's because it's captured both Canadians and Quebecers. And the genius of Patrick Huard was to basically take a shot at everybody. You know, he wasn't protecting anybody, so he was just as harsh on the French as he is on the English. And I think that allows people to really have an honest laugh, and there's nothing really disguised about it. Sometimes you have to explain to your English friends why the French are laughing, and that's not a bad thing. But I think that it just captured something about the truth of the problem of, you know, how do you get along with a couple of languages?
You've talked about this film a lot. What do you get asked the most about Bon Cop, Bad Cop?
Is Patrick Huard really that funny? And yes, he actually is that funny and that clever. Actually, I don't get asked about much other than when are you going to do the next one? You know, because people liked it so much. And I think that's what surprised everybody in Canada, really, that it actually is popular across the country from Victoria to St. John's, that people think, well, I didn't really know much about French, but I think I understood that. And it gives them something to say, well, wait a minute, I know what they're now talking about, this Canada thing. I can speak French, or I can understand French. And that French I learned in school, very handy. And I can swear in French. And so, you know, it's kind of a magical thing.
Nobody really thought of you, I guess, or I didn't really think of you as the comedy guy. So this was a bit of a different path for you to take this movie.
No, it is a bit of a stretch. I was playing killers and crazies and all sorts of other, and doctors and lawyers and people's priests, really. That was more of my style.
And then what did you say when you saw this script, when you saw the script and this was your role?
Well, actually, I sort of begged to be in it, it was a little pathetic, but it was important. Kevin Tierney and Patrick and I met, and I said, look, this is written for me. I mean, it wasn't, but I think you should write it for me, and let me give you some details of my life that really parallel the film. And if you wanted to use part of that storyline, that would be very helpful. And I then said, I also have to go do a play in New York. Please don't get your money until I'm available. Because I recognized, not that it would be a success, but that it was a really terrific idea and a terrific script. I mean, it was funny, it was charming. Patrick is funny and charming, and I thought, I need to pretend to be funny and charming, and so I thought it would be a good career move.
Well, that's the other thing, it's comedy, and then you went from the creepy priest and the angry man to the comedian.
You know what, I don't see him as, he's just the straight man. Patrick sets everything up and I just show up. And sometimes, because my French à l'époque was a little bit rougher, there were some things I just didn't understand. And they passed me by, and they exist in the film. I begged them to cut it or let me retake it when I finally understood what was being said. And neither Patrick nor Kevin would let me. But there's a moment where somebody says, mon père, I'm wearing a col roulé, a nice turtleneck, and the guy says to me, yeah, mon père. And I just disremembered that meant priest. So I have an unactable blank expression on my face, which is just terrible because it's true. And so needless to say, I'm going to try and do better with my French. But that we caught a certain je ne sais quoi with that.
Well, now you're doing Bon Cop, Bad Cop 2. Spoilers, maybe?
You know, the only spoilers we've been, hoping, I certainly was hoping to do it for a dozen years. Nobody's believed we were going to do it until now. I think it may actually happen. And I'm very excited by it. Patrick's written something really extraordinary.
Can you tell us about what he's written?
It's about two policemen who are getting a little old. That's about it.
You're not going to tell me anything?
Mais non, come on. Well, you got to get some people to buy a ticket. I know if we do make it here in Canada, it's made with our taxpayers' dollars, so you've already essentially bought a ticket, but you might as well see it live. surprise.
And we're here for Real Canada. We're showing this Bon Cop, Bad Cop to high school students. High school students who are bombarded with American films, high-budget Hollywood films, and we have to make them like Canadian films. Why is it important for you to be here?
Well, I think it's hugely important to support the idea, but keep in mind, these kids choose the films themselves. Real Canada provides a film festival setting in high schools across the country where we go to the kids and say, here's the list of Canadian films. Why don't you have a look at it and then pick something and tell us what you'd like to see? And so they're seeing everything from Hyena Road to Remember, n'importe quoi. It's really extraordinary. I'm gratified that a lot of them have chosen Bon Cop, Bad Cop. I think the reason that it succeeds is somebody said, hey, that movie's good. I saw that. That's almost as much fun as an American movie. It's got a lot of action, but it speaks to us in a very different way because, well, first of all, it's half in French, and I kind of understand that. And it's funny and irreverent and honest in its irreverence. And I think that is a double whammy for wanting to get engaged and saying to people, look, this is our story. These are our films. No, they didn't cost $300 million, but guess what? They look like they did. And we act just as well in these films. I'll be honest with you. I don't act any better in American movies for which I would be paid more and where the lunches are better. I don't. I do the same job every day.
Colm Feore was at Heritage Regional High School in St. Hubert this week for National Canadian Film Day. I should mention he also did an interview with me entirely in French, and he says his French has gotten much better since he first started shooting Bon Cop, Bad Cop.